Don't let a girl beat you. So when women do something better than men, it evokes a rage in those men that is really just a protective facade around a really deep wound. This became this double-edged sword of competence and misogyny. If I wasn't the most competent attorney, I wouldn't be taken seriously. But if I was the most competent attorney, I would evoke misogyny.
So I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but this was a really big struggle for me in the outdoor industry, because I had to be very careful. I had to make no mistakes. I had to be really good at what I was doing in order for people to trust me. And at the same time, whenever I was dealing with men, being really good at my job would make them hate me. But their lives depended on me being very good at my job. Watch that whole video. It's excellent. I'm sure you're already following Hope Peddler, but if you're not following. So I've talked a lot about how I was a raft guide and I did a lot of outdoor jobs, but I'm going to talk about raft guiding in particular right now. And I've also talked a lot about how I was bullied by the guys I worked with. How I, ended up becoming a toxic masculine feminist, which I talked about in Outside Magazine about what it's like working with mostly men and how horrifying that is. And then you just like that, you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. It was a survival mechanism. I'm not proud of it, but that's how they did. So that's me right there in the visor. One of the things that became really tricky as a guide, I'm going to talk about my clients. So as a raft guide, I could always see the disappointment on men's face when they were like, they found out that I was their guide. I mean, every time, not all of them, sometimes they hit it, or sometimes some of them may not have felt this way, but so many men, because they're conditioned under patriarchy, to just think they're better than us. And in fact, their whole identity is founded on not being a girl, not being like us, in any way whatsoever, which is why they're dying, suffering so much, because they rob themselves of their own humanity when they align with hating someone else in order to have their own identity. Better than someone else, dominating someone else, Same thing with whiteness and all other forms of oppression. So the people in the front, these two right here, this person and this person. Now I remember this boat, it was a very lovely boat. This was like a wedding party. I think I had the bride back there with me so I could protect her. I didn't want anything happening to this bride. I didn't want anything happening to anybody, but as some of y'all know, very first day guiding on the Rio Grande, someone died in a private boater, and we were the first on the scene, and it was horrifying. It was all because of an overconfident man who put two women in danger they didn't know what they were doing. They trusted this man, and the mother died. And it's honestly one of the most traumatizing things I've ever experienced. And I didn't even recognize it until I told that story on here a few months ago, just how much that impacted my life. But it also impacted my job, because I was like, oh my God, I was already scared and knew this was a very serious job. It wasn't just fun. But from then on, I was like, okay, I have to learn how to deal with men's egos so that I don't die and so that my whole boat doesn't die. Because these two people in the front, if they are really insecure men and can't take direction from me, they're going to kill the whole boat. Because not necessarily, but when you're on a river, especially if there's a whole lot of rocks, okay, then not hitting rocks sideways is what keeps you from flipping. And if you flip, then any of these people could drown. So many people really underestimate whitewater. There are so many ways to drown in whitewater. If you hit a rock sideways and you don't high side, you're going over and the whole boat's out. So keeping that boat afloat and keeping everyone in that boat was my number one priority. And the best way that you keep that boat afloat is to make sure that they are your engine. I am the steering wheel. I am the brain, but they are the power. And if these two people up front, if all the people aren't paddling in sync, the boat's going to be doing this, okay? I'm going to be fighting these people. And so I realized right away, I have to be a big old bitch. I don't need these people to like me. I don't need them to be my friend. I can make jokes. We can have fun later on. But the first 10 minutes with these people, I needed them to know that I'm the boss. And a lot of times my own internalized misogyny would put these two men in the front because I needed powerful people in the front. What I found time and time again is that the two men in the front, oftentimes, if I put two men in the front, they would fight me, they wouldn't trust me, they assumed they knew more about me, and sometimes they straight up hated me and defiantly paddled against what I told them to just to be a dad. And in doing so, they put everyone's life at risk, even their own. And especially they would do the sea strokes, which literally turns the boat. Okay, now I'm the steering wheel and I need this boat to go in certain places. Sometimes I purposely would hit a rock with the nose so that I'd spin around and we could do it's like dancing with rocks in a very high pressure environment. I know the current, I know what's coming up, I know this river like the back of my hand, and yet the river changes every day depending on the water level. And these two fools in the front, not these two men were lovely, but the two people in the front set the pace, okay? And I would literally sing, 1, 2, 3. I would sing to get these people to go together. And I can't tell you how much emotional labor it took me to not get everyone in my boat killed when men were in the front. I remember the first time I had a boat full of, I think it was like a rowing team of all women. That is the best boat I've ever had in my life. They respected me. They listened. They knew how important it was to not paddle, to paddle in sync, right? They knew not to do one stroke more, one stroke less. They listened. And one of the things that men don't do when it comes to communicating with women is they don't listen to us because they think they know everything. They think they're better than us. I would have people who literally had never been rafting before trying to guide the boat with no basis other than being men. Even though I had hundreds of hours on this river, hundreds and hundreds, thousands probably, because I worked on this one river for 4 years maybe, and they still think they know better than me. And that is what's so crazy to me, is that men would rather die, literally get themselves and everyone they love killed, than admit that they don't know as much as a woman. It was exhausting, y'all. Exhausting. I got really good. I mean, I grew up in the South, so I already knew how to dance around men's egos. When I was on the river, I had to mix being able to manage their egos so that I don't die, but also be the boss and be like a jerk. And God, they made my life so hard. And I swear to God, any woman who works in an industry where they're, the boss of men, especially if you're doing a job that these men know they could never do and they hate you because you're doing that job, the amount of emotional labor that you do to protect yourself, your whole boat, and even these men who are making your life hard is, God, I should have been paid more than any of the male raft guides I worked with, honestly. And instead I put up with endless bullying, misogyny, all kinds of crap. I can't believe I didn't quit this job. But I'm also a stubborn bird, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do, so I was willing to put up with it. It wasn't until years later that I realized just how insane that job was. But I mean, I haven't had guys trying to get me to do schmegsual thing. It's ridiculous. Nobody should have to put up with this at work. I've said this before, there is nothing more dangerous on the planet than an insecure man. And all men under patriarchy are insecure on some level, but the more insecure, which means the more they are performing masculinity, the more they are tied to their idea of manhood, the more toxic and the more dangerous they are. Which is why all this stupid crap with that bald man, what's his butt, all of these masculinity leaders and all these, men's groups is a good thing if they're doing actual work, but the ones who are trying to sell all these insecure men on what, masculinity, what being a man is, fork all those dudes, because you are literally just giving men false confidence because your confidence is based on masculinity and being a man when you don't even know how to be a human being. You don't even know yourself. You don't even know what emotions are, because everything is about image management and protecting your ego at all costs. And God, they're so dangerous, y'all. So much. I've seen 2 people die on that river, and both times it was because of cocky men, which is why I say, and I will die in this hill. They're the most reckless people on the planet. And whenever I do know plenty of guides who are men who are very competent, but that's because they're emotionally intelligent. But in general, men who are in leadership positions in the outdoors, I don't trust any of them unless I know them personally. And yet all they do is make the women who lead in those positions make our lives hell. It's infuriating, y'all. Go heal your trauma. Go heal. You're killing everyone, including yourself.